was wearing something that you could see it, but I got a new tattoo. Also, I got a haircut. Got some Farrah Fawcett vibes going on with these layers. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to show you how to preserve basil. So if you have a basil plant that's blowing up in your garden and you don't know what to do with all of it, that is what I'm teaching you today. So let's go ahead and hop into the garden and we'll go ahead and chop some of that basil off so we can get it prepped for storage. I will say, whenever you are pruning your basil plant, you need to make sure that if you don't want it to seed and die, you're actually cutting off the white flowers on the tops that start to grow. That's what I was doing in the part of that video where I was just trimming off those parts because I'm not ready for it to die yet. We still have I'd say probably another 2 months in our state with how hot it stays in Oklahoma. So I would like to keep it as long as possible and maybe just continue saving as much basil and just throwing it in the freezer. You do want to make sure whenever you're doing this, you're going to be really careful. Me personally, my husband noticed a black widow the other day inside our basil bush, so I have to be very cautious of where I'm putting my hands and messing with the bush because I don't want to get bit. Ah! That's actually part of her web. I'm gonna see it. Ugh. No, thank you. I'm back inside. I got 3 limbs each side of the basil trimmed off. So I have quite a bit. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to rinse off as much of it as I can, kind of get off the harder pieces of the stem, trim those off. They're a little tough, so that's why I had to go get those like hedge trimmers. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna rinse off the basil and then I'm gonna sit it out to dry. I'm like terrified I'm gonna find a creature in here. These were the little white flowers that I was talking about. If you let these stay on your basil and they continue to grow, your basil will basically kill itself by seeding. So if you want to avoid doing that, you need to make sure that you're consistent with cutting these off. Probably like every other day or so, go out there and trim them. Off. I'm just gonna let it sit for a few hours just to let it dry. Probably put some cloths on top of it to soak up some of that excess water so it doesn't mix really well with the oil that I'm gonna end up putting on it later on. Okay, so now that the basil has dried off, it's had like a few hours for it to get soaked up with the towels that I set on top of it. We are going to peel off parts of the basil so we can coat it in olive oil. That's going to preserve the freshness of that basil whenever we then put it into a Ziploc bag, and then we can store that in the freezer and keep it probably anywhere from 6 months to a year, just depending. The way I'm going to preserve this is I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag, so I'm going to seal it up really, really tight. You can take a gallon, you can do the smaller ones, just depends on how much basil that you actually have. I have quite a bit. I was going to use small Ziploc bags, but I don't have an option but to use these gallon ones because I have so much basil. I will say something that might be really cool depending on what you're going to use your basil for. If you do have something that's growing that large, you could give a lot of this to your family or your friends, because we're going to end up freezing this basil and you're going to be able to keep it for a long time. So the way that we're going to freeze it, it's going to stay so fresh. So you could pass it out to friends and family, just give them some little gifts, or maybe just a thank you. So now, once you've taken all the basil off of its stem, you're going to coat it in extra virgin olive oil. You're going to stir it up really good with your hands, that way you get it covered. You don't want to drown it in it, you don't want it to be like wilting with olive oil, but you just want it to get coated. Now all that's left to do is you are just going to load up your Ziploc bag. You want to make sure when you're doing it, you're pushing it all the way down, that way it's flattened. That way you have more storage in your freezer whenever you put this in there. I possibly could have put more inside of my bag, which I honestly probably will, but just to show you guys what I mean. So you can zip it up. I don't know if this trick works. We shall see. Now you take a straw, put it in the corner of the bag. And there you go. That is how you store basil. It's very flat. Alright guys, well that is the end of the video. I hope that that helped out with some people that have quite a bit of basil growing in their garden like I do. You don't know what to do with it. Now you have some that can last for a while. I did want to mention, I do have a friend named Jennifer that gave me this idea. She took me step by step on how to process it. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it tremendously. If you guys have any video ideas that you would like to learn about something and you would like me to show you how to do it, if you want, go ahead and leave a comment below and I would be happy to look at those and record those videos for you guys. But again, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day and I will see you next week.